Lucretia Mott and Alice Paul were both powerful influences on the women's suffrage movement, the goal being to gain gender equality. This documentary will explore the complicated lives and works of these two women, starting with Lucretia Mott. Lucretia Mott was born on January 3, 1793, to Anna Folger and Thomas Coffin, Jr. She spent her childhood on Nantucket Island, but more specifically in a household of Quaker faith, a religion that encourages the equality of everyone. Therefore, she soon after married James Mott, a Quaker leader and abolitionist. She attended and spoke at Quaker meetings with a rare confidence for women at the time. Prior to advocating for women's rights, she focused on the abolishment of slavery. It was during that time period that she met and bonded with Elizabeth Cady Stanton at the 1840 World Anti-Slavery Convention in London, where they were both denied seats because they were women. At that moment, they both knew that they couldn't fight for the rights of others unless they enjoyed rights of their own. So in 1848, Lucretia Mott, along with 4 other women, Martha Coffin Wright, Mary Ann McClintock, Jane Hunt, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, wrote a Declaration of Sentiments. In the form of the Declaration of Independence, the document began with all men and women are created equal, going on to list 18 injuries and usurpations on the part of man towards women. They also drafted 9 resolutions. Only 11 days later, they held the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York, on July 19, 1848. 300 people attended, including 40 men, and as a result of that, 100 people signed the Declaration of Sentiments. In 1849, California extended their property rights to women, allowing them to own land prior to marriage and separately after marriage. This was the first of many triumphs for women involved in the movement. Over the next 20 years, 12 other women's rights conventions were held, and Lucretia Mott moved up the ladder, becoming the first president of the American Equal Rights Association. She continued to fight for women's rights right up until her death on November 11, 1880, inspiring many other women to follow in her footsteps, including Alice Paul.
Alice Paul was born on January 11th, 1885, 5 years after Lucretia Mott's death, in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, to Tassie Parry Paul and William Mickle Paul. Like Lucretia Mott, they were a family of Quakers. Alice's mother was a supporter of the women's rights movement, attending many of the nearby meetings, often bringing Alice, her eldest child, along. Hence, Alice grew up supporting the women's rights movement.
So she was raised to believe in what she called normal, ordinary equality. She did not understand why people didn't get it. So it wasn't something new to her. When she went to England to study, she got involved with a group of English suffragettes. The Pankhursts were the leaders, and she saw what they were fighting for, and she liked the way they did things and the way they got things done, and that got her even more involved in the movement. But she was raised to believe in equality.
She attended Swarthmore College, a liberal arts university founded by Lucretia Mott. After graduating college, where she earned a master's degree in sociology, Alice moved to England to explore more of the world and develop a full education regarding women's suffrage. It was in England that she discovered a strategy many women use to fight for their rights: hunger strikes. Even after having traumatizing experiences of being force-fed in prison, she continued to participate in hunger strikes when she moved back to the USA.
So the English women, when they were fighting for the right to vote, and they were arrested, they went on these hunger strikes. So in other words, if someone in jail were to die just because they wanted the right to vote, how does that make the government look? So when Alice came home and started silent sentinels and protesting the White House, and they were arrested, she started the same. She started really what she had learned in England, and it did work. Because at first, when she first went on the hunger strike, they thought she was crazy, and they sent a psychiatrist in, and he said, "She's not crazy. She just knows what she wants. She's very intelligent." Then they tried to force feed them, and you would think she had been force fed in England, and it was terrible. Why would you do it here? That just shows you how strongly she believed in what she was fighting for.
She also took part in multiple demonstrations, and it was after one of them that she met Lucy Burns at a local police station after they were both arrested for participating in a demonstration. Lucy Burns, a fellow women's rights activist, soon became Alice Paul's closest companion. After this sudden bond, together they created the National Women's Party.
When they were fighting for the women's right to vote, the NAWSA, the National American Women's Suffrage Association, wanted to go state by state. They wanted to fight with each state and get each state to pass that women could vote. Well, some of the states out west had already given women the right to vote. And Alice Paul and a bunch of the younger girls said, no, that's not really what we want. We want a constitutional amendment so that every woman in the United States gets it at the same time. So they had different viewpoints on how to get to the end result of women getting the right to vote. So because of their differing viewpoints, Alice and Lucy Burns kind of broke away from NAWSA and created the National Women's Party. The sole purpose of the National Women's Party was to get a constitutional amendment to get the right to vote for women.
Not only did Alice Paul create this group, her overall work as a suffragette led to the 19th Amendment of 1920, which granted women the right to vote. After the 19th Amendment was passed, many suffragettes left the movement as they felt their work was done. Not Alice Paul. She believed that the true battle for equality had not yet come to an end. 3 years later, in 1923, Alice Paul announced that she was working towards a new constitutional amendment. At the time, her plan was to name it the Lucretia Mott Amendment. Sadly, the name did not stick. In 1973, it was passed as the Equal Rights Act, stating that men and women shall have equal rights throughout the United States and every place subject to its jurisdiction. Like Lucretia Mott, Alice Paul was inspiring. Her work helped bring America to where it is now, a country that values equality.
Although Alice and Lucretia inspired a lot of positive change, there are still struggles women go through today. One example of sexism is in the workplace, where there is an obvious difference in men and women's salaries. On average, women are paid 80.7 cents for every dollar that men make, when women should be earning the same. Many women with the same jobs as men are making far less or not getting higher positions for no reason. This graph shows the drastic differences in salaries in 2017. A case that has recently surfaced is the wage gap between women and men's U.S. soccer teams. Each player earns an annual salary and bonuses for each game. For women, the bonuses range from $3,600 to $4,950, and for men, it ranges between $6,250 and $17,625. Quite recently, the U.S. women's soccer team has sued the United States Soccer Federation for gender discrimination based on wage gap. The 28 players band together to receive equality, similarly to Lucretia Mott, Alice Paul, and their colleagues. As Lucretia Mott and Alice Paul were both very large components in the women's rights movement, they had very much in common, but as they lived in different time periods, there were also factors that separated them as suffragettes. For instance, Lucretia Mott married a man who assisted in her work to gain female rights. Alice never got married because she felt her colleagues were her family and wanted to focus on her work in the movement. Another similarity that connects Alice and Lucretia is how they were raised. They both grew up in a house of Quaker faith because they were both Quaker. Lucretia and Alice both deeply believed in equality. Therefore, this compelled both of them to fight for women's rights. Another way they differ is how they tried to catch the public's and the government's eye. Lucretia Mott went for the formal and classy while also trying to make her point. For instance, one of her biggest achievements was the Women's Rights Convention. This quickly gained attention and press. On the other hand, Alice Paul went for crazy stunts, sometimes to catch the government's attention. One example is the hunger strike she organized. She definitely caught people's eye and raised awareness. They both had similar impacts on the movement, all while doing it in very different ways.